today. Couple of things. Hey, some of you know that my stepdad passed away last week, and just want you to know I really have felt and appreciate your strength and your prayers, and your hearts and your love for me and my fam. So thanks for that. Really appreciate it, and I'll be talking more about that over the next couple of weeks. But one thing I want to talk about today is it's Monday. So Mondays for me are days where I do my weekly planning, and I thought I would just give a couple of thoughts as I re-engage with some weekly planning. Maybe you guys are in a place where you're starting to figure out what your schedule is going to look like, kind of as life begins to return to maybe a little bit of normalcy. I just want to encourage you to take control of what that actually looks like for you. I think the tendency is it would be really easy for me as I looked at my calendar to just start re-engaging with all of these things that were in my schedule earlier. And what I realized as I look at my schedule in January, so much stuff had just kind of crept in and incrementally crammed into every corner of my schedule in a really unhealthy kind of way. And so I would just encourage you to be really selective as you start to recreate what your schedule is going to look like for you, your family, maybe your work schedule, or your kids' activities. Let me just share a couple things that I've started to do that have been really helpful. I'm a big to-do person, and my schedule really for a long time has kind of revolved around here's the 17 things I need to do. But the last 6 months or so, I started, instead of writing to do at the top of my list every week, I started writing to be. Instead of figuring out what I want to do, really, how do I want to spend my time to become the man I want to be, is way more important, and has been way more valuable for me to think through than what do I need to accomplish. And so maybe instead of having a weekly to-do list, maybe start the week just writing a simple statement about what you want to be. I want to be a beloved child of God. I want to be a courageous child of God and a great father, whatever that looks like, and then allow your schedule to flow from that piece, right? So that's one little thought. And then my next thought, man, one of my favorite passages of the Bible is this psalm. It's Psalm 90. And it's written by a guy named Moses, and it's at the end of his life. And it's interesting, Moses brings the people out of slavery in Egypt, which is really kind of this metaphor, I think, for me at least, of slavery to our schedules. Brings the people of Israel out, and then doesn't step into what God has for him. And so really what he missed out on is stepping into the promises of God, into this promised land. And really what happened is this whole generation, God's like, you know what, if you guys don't want to step into the promises, then your whole generation is going to die off, and the next generation is going to do that. And so because you imagine at the end of his life, he's watched all of his friends just one by one pass away. And at the end of his life, he writes Psalm 90, and there's a couple of things in Psalm 90 that are really powerful for me. In the middle of it, he says, teach me to number my days right so I can gain a heart of wisdom. And this idea of, man, remind me that my days are finite, that I have a finite number of heartbeats and a finite number of breaths in my lungs. Remind me of those things so I don't waste them, right? And at the end, then he says, he's asking God, he's like, establish the work of my hands. And really, for me, that's just this great reminder of living a life of investment, right? When I recognize the finiteness of my heartbeats and my breaths, and I don't want to spend those things, I want to invest those things in a way that lasts for a long time. And so maybe through those two lenses, the lens of what do I want to be? And the lens of Psalm 90 will help you as you begin to maybe re-engage and create a different schedule for yourself than maybe you had in January. Love you guys. Can't wait to continue to connect